I have a personal hygiene question.
Oh, really?
Do you douche?
No.
I don't either. Thank you.
It's supposed to be really bad for you.
I follow a gynecologist on Instagram, and she's always like, douching is bad. But I hear so many people talking about douching. I see the capitalist bullshit on
Yeah.
commercials.
Yeah.
And
And
I've
like
never douched.
patriarchal bullshit.
I know, right? Your pussy's dirty.
Yeah. Well, and like, my experience is that many of my clients, like, they want the pussy to be like pussy.
Natural.
Yeah.
Earthy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the best way to explain it is I have a friend. He's a gay man, but he said when he likes to suck dick, he likes it like end of the day dick sometimes because it has that natural essence of the person.
I can't say that I personally relate to that, but I know there are a lot of people who like it like that, pussy or dick or whatever,
I'm bad.
Yeah.
I don't relate to it at all because
Yeah.
I'm nervous of having a bad experience. And so I don't like to do it because I want to save both of us by preserving the good scent memories that I have. And so I don't want that ruined.
Yeah.
So I will be like, why don't you go rinse off? Even if I preemptively, I'll say that before I even know if it stinks or not.
Yeah.
Because
So-
I just want to preserve that, the
So-
good space.
Yes, I think that's great. One thing I will say as a sex worker is that I make all my clients shower
Yeah.
before, and in my personal life now, I'm like, oh, I can't believe that people really fuck without like showering first, because it's like, it's so great.
Yeah, it's just let's keep the space clean. Like
Yeah.
I love when the sheets can be clean. I love
Yes.
It's just
fresh
if we're getting the
sheets, yes.
space, the cleaner it is, I think the more fun we can have.
Yeah, because
I
then you're
don't
not
feel-
worried about like,
Yeah.
is there something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can even a scent can negatively impact my experience. And so I just feel like that's when I really feel like an old woman where I'm like, what's that smell? No, I can't focus until that smell is figured out. You know,
Totally,
like I won't be able
totally,
to enjoy. Like, you know, when like your aunt comes into your kitchen and she's like that's what I feel like if he didn't smell like soap. Like I love the smell of soap.
Yeah.
It does get me excited when a man smells like soap. I'm like, ooh, and that means he's clean.
I like a little bit of natural
Yeah.
scent, but like I have like a thing that I say, which is that if you've been in your car for more than 7 minutes before you
Yeah.
come to see me, you have to take a shower, because
Yeah.
they're always like, oh, I showered at home just before I came. And I'm like, but you've been in the car for like 30 minutes and there's a lot
Yeah.
of ball sweat that happens down there, you know?
Yeah, and then if they smoke in the
Yeah,
car, the scent of that takes over. So
Yeah.
you mentioned it already. We started off without me even mentioning it, but today our guest, we have Delphine, who is a sex worker.
Yeah.
And really, I feel like there's so many things that I want to know, and I want to also elevate, your voice. And so, I just, I guess to start off with, what type of sex work do you do?
So I have done a lot of different sex work. Right now I'm an escort, and I also am a pro dom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pro dom, and you told me this when we talked before, but can you explain what pro dom is in case anyone doesn't know?
Totally. So a pro dom is a professional dominant. So in the kink BDSM world, it's someone that like is a professional at dominating people.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are there any? Do you have an OnlyFans page?
I do have an OnlyFans, but it's not like super. It's not like a large part of my income. It's more for just the way that people can kind of get to know me better.
Do you feel like there's any hierarchy in the different types of work?
So there is actually this phenomenon called the whorearchy.
The whorearchy.
Yes. Where there totally is a thing where, and this is like a
How do you feel
broad-
about that title before you break it down?
A
for
whore?
me? Whorearchy.
Whorearchy? I think it's a great
Okay, great.
play on words.
Great.
So there is like this phenomenon, and obviously I'm speaking broadly, it's like a stereotype, but there are some like people that are like strippers who are like, oh, like people that do full service or like below me, or like there's people who are escorts who are like high-end escorts who are like, oh, people who are like street-based sex workers are like below me, or like doms, or like people that like suck dick and are dominant or like below me. And it's this, there's plenty of people who are not like that, but it is kind of a phenomenon that happens in the adult industry.
I feel like that would kind of make it, I feel like that would hurt the community in the sex work industry, because of course I'm not a fan of hierarchy in any space, but I feel like having hierarchy like that kind of only further preserves the kind of stigmatization of sex work as a whole.
Well, yeah, it totally does. And it also like further hurts or makes things risky for like the people who are like less privileged or less protected in the type of work that they do, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got to abolish hierarchies
In all
their
forms.
forms.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. So I guess then with what you do mainly, let's stick with maybe escorts or either also in pro dom work.
Yeah.
I guess what do you do to mentally prepare before a session?
So it's really different between escorting and pro dom sessions, because escorting is there's like different kinds of things. Like some of them are just like people want something physical. Some of them are more like involved, like you might go out to dinner or like do an activity or something. But there's a lot less mental preparation. I just, think about what I want to talk about with the person or something like that. And then with domination, like usually, because it's such a broad thing, there's obviously like a more specific thing that like that person wants, so I have to like think about how the time is gonna go, and like kind of plan out the different activities or like bondage positions or whatever. Whereas with escorting, it's pretty much like, well, we're gonna do this thing and then we're probably gonna like cuddle and chat for like the rest of the time, or maybe we'll have sex a couple times, or like but like it's just gonna be like cuddling and chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the dom sessions, do you have like a chat before to know like what to bring or what to prepare for?
Yeah, totally. So I use a space.
Like an order, like
yeah, so I use a space that is pretty well equipped, so with like kink stuff, so I don't usually have to bring much. But yeah, I have a talk with them, usually like via email. So it's kind of complicated because like as a dom, I also do full service, and so you can't really like talk about like that kind of stuff via email, like sex acts or whatever. But I do,
because of
like
the criminalization.
Yeah, some people will talk about it. I personally don't.
You got to stay safe with like just watching your ass.
It's just like my thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But but yeah, I'll ask them like what are their kink interests, or did they have something in mind for the scene, and then they'll give me kind of a general overview so that I can make sure that it's compatible with like what I want to do in kink sessions. And then when we schedule it or when we meet, we'll have a more in-depth talk, and we'll talk about what are your limits, here's a safe word, and all of that more like specific stuff.
What's majority of your clientele?
Definitely escorting is the majority of my clientele right now.
Are they mostly men? Like, I don't want to just
I
assume.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly men. I've had like a handful of women clients, a handful of non-binary clients, and a handful of like other like gender queer type of clients and stuff.
Okay.
But, yeah.
And with the guys, well, I don't want to make any generalizations, but is there like an ethnic group that like and I'm only asking because I know within the Indian community, because people are so sexually oppressed, because of how agency in your sexuality is so shamed, that a lot of Indian men feel like they need to seek sexual pleasure through sex work. And so I guess I was just wondering, through your experience, do you feel like there is a majority of any group, or do you feel like it's just equally spread across the table?
I mean, I think like it's probably representative of like the demographics of the Bay Area,
And,
maybe.
yeah, and we're in the Bay. So.
Yeah, so it's like a lot of white people. Probably the second most demographic that I see is Indian people, like the second highest, and then people that are like Hispanic people, Black people, like every kind of person.
Yeah.
But I think that might be like representative of like the percentages of people in the Bay Area, but I don't
Right.
really
We do
know.
have a lot of
Yeah.
Indians here.
Yeah, especially like in the South Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, to kind of expand on that, then I was talking to an Indian guy that I know, and he has some friends that are seeking asylum that are here, without the visas and
Right.
things that you need to legally
Right.
be here. But he said that a lot of Indian men that come here are not equipped with the tools to be able to essentially seduce women. And so sex work really helps with that connectivity that they feel like they can't facilitate themselves. Do you feel like cultural differences play a role in keeping some of these men from connecting with women so they feel like they can connect with you because you're making, this is your job and you're making money, so it's a profit for both, maybe?
Well, I definitely think that people that come from cultures where like sexuality is like heavily repressed or suppressed, um, definitely can use sex work as a way to like gain skills and just be
Heal.
more comfortable with their own sexuality. There is this other thing that I would recommend even more because like I'm not a therapist,
Yeah.
but there's a thing that's called sex surrogacy, which are people that are trained and they actually work with therapists. And so I think that is something where people that want that kind of healing can have like an even deeper, more meaningful experience. But also like sex work, seeing an escort is also a great way to like feel more comfortable
Yeah.
with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really great because I know a lot of times it's like if you're unfamiliar and insecure, not comfortable, if you can unpack some of those things
Yeah.
and gain some knowledge and maybe heal from some things sexually with,
Totally.
someone who it's their job to be there
Totally.
in that way, I think that's awesome.
Well, and I will say that like there is this kind of view that is actually part of the hierarchy that like, oh, if you're like doing this as like a healing work, then somehow it's like somehow better than other people or something. And like for me it's really important that like my clients actually have the agency to decide whether or not they want to seek healing, whether it's with me or in any other situation. And so I personally don't like put that on myself or my clients that, oh, this is like a healing experience.
Yeah.
But it can be if that's
Totally.
what they get out of it. And my friend once said something about this that I just fucking love. She was like, yeah, sometimes people just want to be a car wash for dicks and that's okay too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't have to feel like you're some healing, goddess just, helping everybody out. You could just want to be a car wash for dicks.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
No, yeah. Awesome. And so what I wanted to ask then is like with your clients, what are majority of the activities that they want you to do to or with them?
Like in a kink session or
Yeah.
okay. So I mean, most of the stuff they want to do aligns with my interests because that's what I also like to do. So like cuckolding role play, strap on, chastity play, cross dressing, like forced and coerced like
What's
bisexuality.
chastity play?
Chastity play is like they wear like a chastity device. And
Oh.
so sometimes it's just in the session and it's part of the fantasy. Some people, and I haven't done this that much, but a little bit, sometimes they want you to like hold the key for them so they have no choice. Wow. Yeah.
Do they have these tools themselves or do you have them and they like
They would have to like get it or have it and
okay, yeah, 'cause
yeah.
I'm like that could be expensive having
Yeah,
all
and
these products.
there's all sorts of like different options. It's pretty cool.
And with cuckolding, it would just like they would bring their wife and
Well, with cuckolding, it's usually more of like a role play of like talking about it.
okay.
Some people would bring like a male sex worker into the session to like cuckold the client.
Okay.
Or like
And sorry, what does that mean exactly?
Oh,
Cuckolding
cuckolding?
a client. That means
Okay, so that means the client is the cuckold, right?
And that means they're the one watching, or
Well, so cuckolding is like kind of this complicated fetish. There's a lot of different ways that it can play out. The way that I really like it to play out is where the client is like, you know, like a deep submissive, not just like observing me having sex, where the client is like a deep submissive and they're not worthy to like fuck me, so they have to be like subservient to me and whoever I'm fucking. And you know, a lot of the things that go along with cuckolding are like, oh, he has to like clean another man's jizz out of my pussy or eat it out of the condom or something, or he has to like serve us drinks before we like fuck, or he has to like be in bondage while we're like fooling around. And a lot of it is about like masculinity. Like a lot of the people that are into being the cuckold want to be told that they're like not a real man. They're like too pathetic, or like, and a thing that comes along with that is also like small penis humiliation. Many cuckolds want to experience small penis humiliation, and that goes along with like the whole thing.
I feel like these things that you're listing, and like it have to do with masculinity. Like you're listing cuckolding, and then strap-ons, and cross-dressing, and small penis humiliation. All these things I feel like make it sound like masculinity is like a really hard thing to deal with.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like breaking free out of a prison. Like, let me just break free of this shit and just wear something that doesn't conform to my gender, or watch someone else maybe have sex with my wife, or also have anal sex and not feel like I'm gay for it.
Yeah.
It seems like masculinity can be a prison, and the only place that you feel may be comfortable to heal from that is with a sex worker.
Yeah. Or
hidden.
even there are people that do this stuff in their personal life, not with a sex worker.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that kink, whether you're doing it with like a professional or in your personal life. I mean, I guess if you're doing it with a professional, it's still your personal life, but hopefully that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's like so rich, juicy grounds for like healing all sorts of things. And like it doesn't have to be that. It can also just be fun, but it's like, yeah, I think, you know, the same things in patriarchy that hurt like women also hurt men in like different ways, and these are totally ways for them to like play out those like insecurities, those fears, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah,
no, I could see that helping out. A lot of men just escape from that. So I wanted to talk about,
Cool.
with small penis humiliation, what are some of the things that you've done to enact that?
A lot of it is just talking. So, you know, telling them their penis is like pathetic, they're not a real man, they don't deserve to like fuck any pussy or come close to like a pussy.
And are you saying this like angrily? Like, are
I'm
you?
usually there are people who do it like angrily. My personal style is to actually be like extremely sweet and fucked up at the same time.
Okay. Is it like, oh my God, wow,
yeah,
look at that little dick?
Yeah, kind of. Like,
don't get excited, all right? I'm gonna start charging. I just did a little bit right now.
Yeah, don't do that for free.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Gotta learn for the pros.
Yeah. And or I'll be like, oh, your dick is like made for your hand, like that kind of stuff. And then also there's some things like I'll like make them like eat their own cum, or like I'll make them be in humiliating positions, or you know, stuff like that.
Yeah. And are their dicks always small?
You know, you would think that they are, but they're not. It's like sometimes it's really awkward if you're like, oh, your dick's actually kind of big, but you want me to tell you that it's small.
I think that's like, the game. They're just like, look at the difficulty she's having. With telling me my dick's small because it's so huge.
But so like one thing that I've done with some people that actually have larger dicks but they want to be cuckolded or they want to be humiliated is that I'll find something else about their dick. Like maybe they like come too quick, or they like lose control of their orgasm somehow, or maybe they can't keep it hard. Like,
it's a weird color.
Yeah, or like I'll find something else
You're like, look at
about
that
it.
weird vein.
Yeah.
Wow, that vein's like so crooked.
Yeah. But I mean, it's so powerful because I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of men's nightmare to be with
Yeah.
a woman and have them be like, whoa, what the fuck is happening with your dick?
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's like a
So
fun
funny, big
playground.
dick problems. I
I
just
know.
want to feel humiliated.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of having this big old dick.
I know. Yeah. It's terrible.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so with humiliation, I guess I don't, and here and on my intention is to never make anything sound weird. I don't think anything should be shamed in the boudoir.
Yeah.
Like, I think sex should be embraced. And so, humiliation, let's talk about erotic humiliation.
Totally.
I guess I mean, I don't know too much about BDSM, but what I have heard about it is that there's a submissive, dominant, a power exchange
Yeah.
going on here with humiliation. And I guess I don't know, like what else with that, like what do people gain from it?
Well, first of all, I also want to say that to me, like outside of a BDSM session, I would never like shame someone for having a small dick. Like this is not like my ethos. It's like a thing that I do in a scene that has like clear boundaries. But like, so what do people get out of humiliation? I mean, I think about this stuff with like a lot of kink and a lot of my own kinks because sometimes I'm like, why am I like this? And I'm just like, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's hot. And some of them, I think it can just be that simple.
Yeah.
I think there are definitely people for whom it's a lot deeper than that.
Yeah.
Where they had some experience, where they felt deep shame and it was during puberty and it kind of like turned them on.
But these kinks
something.
aren't always related to a wound or like a traumatic event. I feel like a lot of people relate kinks sometimes to something like mental health or trauma when sometimes it's just someone's kink.
Yeah, like sometimes you just like saw a movie and you're like, wow, that was kind of hot.
I feel like people do a lot of putting down sexual things, which is why I could see where the dehumanization of sex work, it's because of the lack of agency people have in their own sexuality, which then leads to that.
Yeah. And I mean, there's definitely people that have kinks that are rooted in trauma or like difficult moments. There's also a lot of people who have kinks that are like, I don't know why I like this. It just feels good. And I think both are totally valid. And it doesn't, like I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, it's just like people that say like, oh, like all sex workers were like had childhood trauma or like sexual childhood trauma even. And it's like, no, that's not
Such
true.
a stereotype.
Yeah,
It's a stereotype.
Yeah, and it's just like any group of people. Some people have, some people haven't. Just like in kinks, some people have had some trauma that their kink is based off of. Some people haven't, and it.
I hate that it is stigmatized like that because it's like, can you just think about how expensive the world is? First off, that is the trauma.
Yeah.
Is how expensive
really
shit is, where I am thinking about selling my body just so I can pay the rent and bills. And you know what? If there's people that are out there to, spend money on it, considering the gender equity wage gap, like how much money can, a woman in society really make to pay for everything? If sex work is paying the bills, then why not? I feel like that's just another way to preserve like the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Is by criminalizing it. So then
absolutely.
then they can continue to make money off of, the criminalization of it.
Totally. Well, I will say a couple things. One is that like sex workers don't really sell their bodies. They just sell their time, like a massage therapist, or like
okay, good.
Or
no,
like,
yeah,
or
thank
like
you. I want to say it the correct way.
Totally. Like someone that works with their body more heavily, like a common example that I've heard people use is like a coal miner. They're like so doing this like really hard physical labor. And so it's like we're actually in capitalism, we're like all kind of selling our bodies and finding the work that we can do that maybe grinds down our bodies in the least harmful way or whatever. I don't know. And then another thing I want to say is that there are totally male sex workers And so that I don't like know as much about like the experience of a male sex worker since I'm not one, but like there are a lot of like issues, like women's issues like within sex work, but there are also male sex workers, and there's like a whole very bustling like gay side of the sex work industry that I honestly don't know that much about, but I imagine they have their own kind of sets of issues and everything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel like? What are the differences, of course, in regards to safety, which I would totally want to cover in a second?
Yeah.
What are some main differences you see between, I guess, women doing sex work and men doing sex work?
I think it's like a lot of things in the world where like who's who's the guy from Magic Mike?
Channing Tatum.
Yeah, so I think he was like a male stripper and he's like celebrated for that, and he is like famous now, and he has like a movie that's based
Yeah.
on being a male stripper. Whereas if a woman is a stripper or a sex worker, it's like scandalous, it's like harmful to her career. There's so many stories of women. There was this woman, I want to say her porn name is like Gage or something like that. And I read this article about her. She was really famous. I can't remember when she was famous, maybe the 90s, early 2000s. Sorry if that's wrong, I can't remember. But she, many years later, went back to school to become maybe like a medical assistant or like a phlebotomist or something. And they found out who she was, and they like, I can't remember the full story, but it's like she somehow couldn't continue in the school because of this. And it's like, you know, it's such a double standard. Men are always praised for being more promiscuous or doing something like that, and women are like put down. And I'm sure there's also men that have had things like that happen due to doing sex work, but it's just kind of like a trend that I see. I think there are probably also a lot of the same struggles. I don't know personally, but that's like one that I've just seen like kind of played out in the media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely do want to bring up safety when
yeah.
talking about sex work. So I guess what are some, what are some things to consider when thinking about safety in this line of work?
So like a lot of sex workers screen their clients. I'm not gonna like give details about how we do it, but it just means we like verify as best we can that they're like a safe person to see. And there's other things that people do, like if I'm going to an out call, which means I'm going to their hotel or their home with someone I haven't met before, I'll like let my friend know and like be like, hey, if I don't like text you by this time, like here's what you should do or something. You know what I mean? And yeah, and also I think like I've been really, really so lucky and very grateful that I like work in kind of in community. Like there's so many sex workers in the Bay Area. Most of my friends are sex workers, and through that I've been able to, like when I was starting, I was able to learn so much about safety and what I should be worried about versus what I should not be worried about. Like in the Bay Area, like or maybe like in the city that I'm working in, like for me, like the police are not as much of a concern, I don't think. So I'm not worried about that aspect of safety as much, more just like the people that I'm going to be seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you feel like the criminalization of sex work has like influenced any harm that may come to you?
Well, so I am a person, I have a lot of privilege. I'm white. I work indoors. I use the internet to advertise. I have like a computer and a phone, and I can just like put up a little ad and etc. I can make my own website, you know, and those things are all real privileges. And so I honestly, I mean, obviously criminalization affects me to a certain degree. I don't feel like it affects me greatly. And just like any type of criminalization or like governmental
Power.
right, it affects people who are already more marginalized.
Of course, like
Yeah.
people who may be on the street doing
Right.
it, who don't have access to understanding or having the access or resources to do it online or things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And these are the same people that are also harmed by like other systems of oppression in the country. Like maybe like it more proportionally affects like people of color and like people who are like lower income already and stuff like that. Yeah.
So I guess on a lighter note,
Okay.
when I think about, you being open with your clients and like, you know, doing things that make them feel comfortable, maybe help them heal. Have you had any of your clients ever aspire to be anything more with you? Like maybe be romantic with you since they felt so satisfied with their
So
time?
so yes, for sure. And when that happens to me, it's two things. It's like one, oh, I'm like really good at my job because my goal in my job is to create like a magical experience for
Yeah.
them, and I want them to like forget that this is what it is. I want it to feel like really sweet for them, and I really honestly like when I walk into a session, I'm like, oh, like the feeling that I have is like, oh, like this could be like an amazing encounter. Like that's the
Yeah.
feeling that I want to bring to it. Um, so it says, so I'm like, okay, I like did my job well when that happens. And then the other thing is that it's also a bit disrespectful because
Yeah.
it's like, would you ever ask anyone else to like do their job for no money?
Yeah.
Like, but when that does happen, and it's only happened like a handful of times, my friend, we have this like special relationship that exists within this container, and the container is time and money, and we can have like real intimacy and real love and real affection within that container, but our relationship does not exist outside of this container. And I really feel that that is true. I mean, some of my clients I've been seeing for like many years, and it's like really sweet, and I'm so grateful for it.
Nice. Have you found yourself developing feelings for any of your clients?
Not so much. I think there's definitely clients where I'm like, ooh, that was like fun, or I like this client, but it's kind of like the same thing for me, where it's like I can have like real feelings of like intimacy, love, friendship, whatever within that container. But I think for me, because in my sessions, I'm really bringing like the best parts of myself to
Yeah.
show the client. It's not that it's not my full self, but I'm not going to be like in my sweats, like eating cereal
Yeah,
from
because
the
they're paying
TV.
for a certain
Right.
fantasy or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of tempers that inclination for me. But I definitely like have clients that I
Yeah,
really
you're like, I'm
appreciate
here to
and like
work.
spending time with them. I mean,
Yeah.
it's work and it's also fun, but it's definitely like a job and it's work, but it's also really fun and sweet, and I imagine like maybe I'm trying to think of another profession that like might feel that way. I don't know. I can't really think of anything, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just this is the certain type of energy that I'm bringing to here, not to be confused with something larger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I wonder, of course, not all, and I'm just sticking with clientele that's men, not all men are married
Right.
that see sex workers, but I wonder for the ones that are married, have you ever had a situation where a partner or spouse finds out and approaches you, or maybe even collaboratively tries to work with you to heal that man?
No, I haven't. A lot of people have though.
Yeah.
Um, I I'm like maybe I should like knock on wood. I'm like I haven't had that experience yet.
Where she's like, I'm okay with you fucking my husband, but can we figure out why the fuck he does, something like
Yeah, I
that? I don't
mean,
know.
yeah, I haven't had anyone ever contact me, thankfully. I think that if someone did contact me and they were angry, I would probably just not respond to them. If someone contacted me and was like, let's like work on this man, I would be like, I'm not a
He'd be
therapist.
like, that's gonna be double.
Well, I would probably be like, you should get like a couple of therapists.
Yeah,
That's
right.
not me. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So I guess earlier you were saying that, when you joined this community there you got lucky with people that were teaching you, the
Yeah,
ropes and
yeah.
things. No pun intended because there are ropes involved.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess how do you really learn how to do some of these things. I'm really envisioning, like, let's say a guy wants you to step on his balls with some high heels.
Yeah.
How do you learn to not smash them, to not make them explode under your high heels?
So I would definitely recommend if people are like, I want to do this. I mean, I think you need to be doing kink in your personal life first. There's, especially in the Bay Area, but also I imagine in a lot of other cities, there's like tons of classes. There's also a lot of online classes.
Oh, really? There's like
Yeah.
online. So is there like an online class to like learn how to properly step on balls?
There probably is. I don't
Shit,
know.
bro. You can learn anything online.
Yeah, you really
okay?
can. You really can. So there's a lot of online classes. There's in the Bay Area. There's a lot of in-person classes, and also like so for me, and
In-person classes.
Yeah.
So there's like a man. There's like balls.
Yeah.
With a man attached to it.
Yeah,
or
or-
and then a person. It's like, this is how you step on it properly.
Yeah, or like maybe the person would give like a description of how to do it, and then like maybe a brief demonstration. You know, I don't know. Wow. Yeah.
That's kind of amazing. I'm kind of interested on observing the situation, like observing it happening, but also
You want to like audit the
feeling,
class.
Yeah, I want to be like, whoa, he's feeling this from that. Whoa. Like, I just want to understand it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy, yeah. Well, it's not crazy, but it's just so different to me. So I am interested in how, but yeah, so there's classes to learn these things.
Yeah, and then also for me, and this isn't necessarily something that I would recommend to everyone, but when I started as a pro dom, I actually worked at like a house, which is kind of like an agency, and so I had already had a lot of kink skills at that time, but that is a way that a lot of people learn. And just feel comfortable and safe because there's like people around and other people can like teach them things and like you know, stuff like that. But like that, those types of situations are not always good for people, and it can get kind of weird.
So let's say you're like, let's say someone that's listening right now
Yeah.
is by themselves listening and considering like, you know, I've had really vanilla sex my whole life, and I think I actually am kind of intrigued by, you know, getting involved with some kink.
Yeah.
How does someone, and let's say they are single,
Yeah.
so they don't have like a partner to explore with in that way.
Yeah.
How does someone start navigating the journey of introducing themselves to kink?
I mean, there's so many online resources. Also, like online dating. There's like so many kinky people. There's this app called Field that is like
Field?
FEELD. It's like a dating app,
Okay.
but it's more for like people that are like not monogamous or like kinky or like looking for like that kind
The
of
Indian
thing.
in me is like, that's spelled wrong. Spelled wrong. No. But yeah, so there's a site for this.
Yeah, there's also like a social networking site called like FetLife.
Then why the fuck are people on Hinge always trying to hit people up for that shit when there's a specific site for this?
Well, it can be for any site, but these are just ones that are more geared towards that.
I don't have much experience in understanding too much about kink or BDSM, but I'm always open to like understanding spaces I haven't traveled in. So we were thinking about maybe having some kind of demo of something that we can learn. And so tell me what things you may have brought or what things you're thinking.
So I brought like 2 different like pairs of boots. Thank you. And
The ball crushing boots.
Yeah, well, more just like maybe like ball kicking for me more would
Ball
be more
kicking?
Yeah, or it's called it's a fetish called ball busting.
Is it like a soccer kick or is it just
Yeah,
like...
sometimes you kick them really hard and sometimes
Whoa.
you like knee them in the balls and stuff like that. Yeah. So I brought 2 different boots for that. I brought a flogger, but I actually don't know if like this room is quite big enough for that.
What is flogging?
Do you want me to show you what it is?
Yeah, tell me,
Okay.
because this is a room. This is
Okay.
like, this is a room that's something someone can sleep in.
Well, I think it would be big enough, but there's like all this other.
Oh,
like,
got it. I got
stuff
it.
in here, so I'm like, I don't want to like fuck it up. But it's just like this like
Oh.
whip. And so what's nice about flogging is that it's kind of good because it doesn't always like hurt. Like you can make it hurt, but sometimes it kind of feels like nice, like a massagey vibe. You know?
So tell me what do you do? What is it? How does it feel massagey? I like massages.
It feels like it can feel like. Have you ever had like someone like just like bang on your back or something. Like it can
Yeah,
feel
like
kind
this
of
one,
like
this
that.
choppy move where they go like this.
Yeah, kind of. But then if you do it like harder or like certain ways, then it can be
Oh,
like a
I
little
can
more painful.
understand how that
Yeah.
can feel
Yeah, yeah,
massagey.
yeah, yeah.
And so, yeah, you need room to be able to like
Yeah, there's like a little bit too much like things
space
here where
going
I'm like
on.
I don't want
Yeah.
to be like hitting things and
No,
knocking
of
them over.
course.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. No, that's really. Can I
Yeah, totally.
see it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you would like grip it like this and then like bring it down on someone?
Yeah, like you can do it like on their upper back, you can do it on their butt.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you could just take a couple if you didn't have the space and like whip them like that.
Yeah, there's actually really little ones too that are super cute.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool. What kind of like scar does this cause? Like any bruising? Does it
Um,
cause like any bruising or scarring or anything?
Well, most things in BDSM like don't cause scarring because most people don't want permanent marks.
Yeah.
So this can cause a little bit of marks, but mostly flogging doesn't cause marks that much. Like you might have marks like redness for like an hour or two, but if someone goes really hard, then you can have marks. Like there's also different types of floggers. So this one's like pretty soft. I think this might actually be deerskin. But there's definitely other ones that are like different materials or different textures that would be way more likely to cause marks.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm sure it feels exerting sometimes then with some of the things. Do you feel like it's a little workout sometimes? You're like...
Sometimes, but I'm like a super physically active person. So
there you go.
To me, it's like feels good.
You gotta stay in shape for this work.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me your two different boots for kicking and
so
squishing. I don't know.
I brought these just because they're just like so visually great.
My goodness.
But these I would really not wear these for anything besides like photos or a video because
Okay, I was just gonna ask how do you move?
They're a pain to walk around in. They're a pain to I would wear them if someone was like, I really want you to
Have
wear
you
this
stepped
for
on
a
anyone's
session.
balls in those?
I actually don't think so.
Do you step on it with the front part or the back part?
Yeah, you mostly step on it with the front part, and you can like lightly step on it with the back part. Yeah, like you have to be.
I don't even have balls that hurt my like.
You have to be really
balls.
careful. You usually like what I would like to do is like hold on to something.
Oh, like a little Thai massage lady.
And then so you can really be balanced and be really careful.
Okay.
Because you do have to be really careful. So
these
I don't.
Ones are not your kicking balls ones.
No, because it's a bit hard to like. I mean, I can walk in them pretty well, but it's like I just feel like they're a little bit. I have ones that I'm like more comfortable with.
Okay.
For doing stuff like that, but I would definitely wear these if someone was like, I have like a boot fetish. Do you have like any crazy boots?
Okay, perfect. Like, cool.
And then these are the ones that I would more so wear.
Nice.
I've definitely kicked and stepped on some balls in these.
How many balls would you say that you've kicked in those shoes?
Numerous. I don't know. I couldn't count. But these are just like...
How much distance have you gotten?
These are just more comfortable. They're like easier to balance in. They're easier to walk in. And I feel like I have more like precision with them because I'm just a little bit more comfortable.
Have you stopped anyone from having kids?
I don't know. Man. Hopefully they didn't already want to have kids. But people that are into ball busting, like they know that those kinds of things are a risk.
They're like, I've already had my children.
Maybe, yeah. Or they don't care.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for showing me that. I've actually, that's something I didn't even think about, like the different type of just footwear.
Yeah.
You would need.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So I guess usually we end this, we end with a question on how to be better towards the person that is our guest. And so I guess in regards to like sex work, how can people navigate either approaching sex work? Okay, let me rephrase this question. How can people behave that's best for sex workers?
I mean, I think one thing that people can do is just realize that it's literally just a job. People don't have to love their jobs. People can like their job because it makes them money, because we live in capitalism. And like people, yeah. And so I would say just treat it like any other job when you're talking to someone about sex work. Like, don't sensationalize it. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, do you like love sex, or like all this stuff. I'm like, I'm a human. I like having sex.
Yeah.
But like, it's not that it's not about that for me, but it's like, it's just a job. Some days you have it great, some days you have it shitty, you know? So I would say probably just that mentality could be helpful for people.
So I guess what's something that you feel like it's really brought to your life that you're appreciative of?
From sex work?
Yeah.
I mean, like, the most obvious one to me is like the in a financial way, but also in other ways, like sex work has allowed me to do things that I never imagined I would ever be able to do.
Yeah.
And it's not all related to money, but it's like money has allowed me to have enough time to like do like introspective inner work, or like it's allowed me to like focus on other interests that I have because I have time to do that, or I also have like extra money I can spend on taking like classes that I'm interested in. And so it's like the lifestyle that I want to have, where and I do work a lot at times, but it's like I have like the flexibility and like the empowerment of my own schedule and my own time. And
it's like giving you agency.
Yeah. Yeah. I really feel that for myself. There's definitely people who don't feel that way. And like, I think both things are valid. And that's just like my experience. But I'm like so, so, so grateful. Also, like, some of my clients are just like great. It's like so fun to like spend time with them. And also, like, my friends that I've made in the sex work community are like, I mean, all my best friends are sex workers. And I'm like, it's so sweet and juicy. And I love it. Yeah.
No, I'm glad.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you feel that way about
Thank
it.
you.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show and
thanks.
talking about, I think, a profession that a lot of us maybe don't open up and talk about. And I want to normalize what I want to do with this conversation is just bring normalization to that. So I really appreciate you being on the show so we could do that. So
well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. How do you figure out your pricing? Oh, the businesswoman in me